My mother stood up at Thanksgiving dinner, raised her wine glass in front of 14 people, and said, and I'm quoting her exactly, "One daughter is a doctor. The other one? Well, she cleans houses for a living." 14 people laughed. What none of them knew was that 3 weeks later, they'd be sitting in a ballroom with 600 people, watching me walk across a stage to accept an award they couldn't even pronounce. And the company they were laughing about had been servicing their favorite luxury resort for 2 years. They just never thought to ask whose name was on the contract. This is that story. To understand what happened at that dinner table, you need to understand the Marlowe family. We grew up in Halcyon Park, a neighborhood in Phoenix where every lawn is perfectly green and everyone is very good at pretending everything is fine. My mother, Carolyn, was 58. Former elementary school teacher. She believed in 3 things: God, appearances, and her eldest daughter. Not necessarily in that order. My father, Roland, was 62. Quiet man. The kind of quiet people mistake for wisdom, but is really just avoidance. His answer to every slight, every comparison, every time I felt like a stranger at my own dinner table: "Your mother just wants what's best for you, Alicia. You know how she is." Every single time. That was it. That was all he ever gave me. And then there was Kimberly. Dr. Kim Marlowe Hargrove, 34. Board-certified dermatologist. Her own practice. Her husband Spencer was a real estate attorney. 5,000 square foot house in North Scottsdale. Heated pool year-round. My mother posted about Kimberly on Facebook 4 times a week. Her bio read, "Proud mother of Dr. Kim Marlowe Hargrove." That was it. Just Kimberly. As if she only had one daughter. I used to scroll through my mother's profile late at night, looking for myself. In 3 years, I found one photo. Easter 2023. I was in the background, slightly out of focus, carrying a casserole dish. She hadn't even tagged me. In the living room, there was what my mother called the family wall. 12 framed photos. Kimberly appeared in 11 of them. I was in one, my high school graduation, bottom corner, partially hidden behind a decorative plant. And the gap between us wasn't just photographs. When Kimberly graduated from medical school, my parents threw a party for 60 people. Rented out a restaurant. Live band. My mother gave a 12-minute speech that made 3 people cry. When I got my CNA certification at 22, my mother said, "That's nice, honey. Can you pass the salad?" No party. No speech. Just salad. When Kimberly bought her first house, my parents gave her $30,000 for the down payment. When I moved into my first apartment, a 1-bedroom in Tempe with bars on the windows, my mother asked if I really needed to live alone. The message was always clear. There was Kimberly. And then there was everyone else. For 5 years, I worked at Pinnacle Dermatology and Aesthetics. Kimberly's practice. Kimberly called me in March 2016. There was an opening, front desk, patient intake. "I'm doing this as a favor, Ollie. Don't make me regret it." I arrived early, stayed late, learned every patient's name, their allergies, their kids' birthdays. I was the one who calmed anxious patients before procedures. I was the one who stayed until 9 at night reorganizing the supply closet because no one else wanted to. Perfect attendance. Not one complaint in my file. For 5 years, I thought it was working. Then came March 15th, 2021. Monday. 9:47 in the morning. Brenda Garrison, the practice manager, told me they were letting me go. Effective immediately. 20 minutes to collect my things. I packed a cardboard box, a framed photo, a coffee mug, a succulent I'd kept on my desk for 3 years. As I walked toward the exit, I passed Kimberly's office. Door open. She was on the phone, laughing, chair turned to the window. She didn't look up. Didn't even turn around. 2 weeks later, Amber, the receptionist, called me. It was Kimberly. She told Brenda you were a liability. That you made patients uncomfortable. That you had attitude problems. None of it was true. Everyone at that practice knew it. But Brenda wasn't going to argue with a physician, especially one of the partners. I sat in a Walmart parking lot for 2 hours. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just sat there trying to understand how my own sister could do that to me. I had $3,200 in debt. No job. No references. And no explanation I could give my parents that wouldn't sound like I was attacking their golden child. So I didn't tell them. I said I needed a change. My mother sighed and said, "I hope you find something soon. It's embarrassing when people ask what you do." That night, I called Aunt Sydney. She was my father's younger sister, hairdresser, divorced twice, the family's cautionary tale. But she was the only person who ever asked how I was doing without waiting for an answer she wanted to hear. I told her everything. When I finished, she said, "Don't give them the satisfaction of watching you bleed. And don't give them the satisfaction of watching you heal either. Just live quietly, and one day, they'll see everything they missed." That was the day I stopped being Kimberly's sister and started becoming someone else entirely. I started cleaning houses. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to pay rent. My first client was Mrs. Cromwell, 73, a widow in Camelback Estates, 6,000 square foot house, more rooms than she could use. For the first few months, I just cleaned. Scrubbed toilets, mopped floors, organized closets. There was something almost meditative about it. No one watching. No one judging. Just work. But then I started noticing things. Mrs. Cromwell's house was spotless, but her life was chaos underneath. Unpaid bills stacked on the kitchen counter. A broken garage door ignored for 6 months. A fridge full of expired food because she couldn't keep track of what she'd bought. One day, without being asked, I sorted the bills by due date, called a handyman about the garage door, cleaned out the fridge, and left a grocery list on the counter. She cried. "No one has ever done this for me. Not even my own children." That moment changed everything for me. I realized rich people don't just want clean. They want invisible. Someone who sees everything, says nothing, and makes their life run smoother without ever making them feel like they need the help. They want the result without the effort. And I had spent my entire life learning exactly how to do that, how to be present without being noticed, how to fix things without being asked, how to make someone's world easier while staying completely out of their way. I could give them that better than anyone. On September 12, 2022, I filed paperwork for Ironwood Concierge LLC. $50 filing fee. The woman at the counter asked what we did. "We make rich people's lives easier," I said. She laughed. I didn't. The first year was brutal. 18-hour days. 2 employees. 12 clients by year's end. Revenue of $4,200 a month, barely covering payroll. I almost quit 3 times. Then in April 2023, I got an email from Veronica Harcourt. Veronica owned the Solara, a 120-room luxury resort in Camelback Estates. $800 a night, minimum. Her previous contractor had been caught stealing from guests. She needed someone discreet. Someone trustworthy. A client had mentioned my name. I met her on a Tuesday. She sat behind a mahogany desk and looked at me the way people look at someone they're still deciding about. Then she asked, "Everyone promises discretion. What makes you different?" I thought about my mother. About Kimberly. About every family dinner where I'd refilled water glasses and cleared plates and made myself useful while nobody asked my name. I've spent my whole life being invisible, Mrs. Harcourt. I know how to make other people feel seen while staying unseen myself. She held my gaze for a long moment. Then she slid a contract across the desk. $28,000 a month. 18-month term. "Can you handle it?" "Yes," I said. I had absolutely no idea. But I figured it out. Veronica signed a second contract. Then introduced me to the owners of Sage Canyon Resort and Ember Ridge Lodge. By November 2025, Ironwood Concierge had 38 employees and was on track to hit $1.9 million in annual revenue. I still drove a 2019 Honda Civic. Still wore jeans and plain sweaters. And when my mother asked what I did, I said, "Just cleaning, Mom." Same as always. She never asked follow-up questions. I built an empire in complete silence. In June 2024, Aunt Sydney called me at 8:47 on a Tuesday night. A client had been in her chair that morning, a woman from Camelback Estates who spent the whole appointment raving about her concierge company. Discreet. Professional. Life-changing. Then mentioned the owner's name. Alicia Marlowe. "That's you, isn't it?" I asked her not to tell anyone. She said she wouldn't. Then, But I need you to know, I am so proud of you. We talked for another hour. When we finally said goodbye, she said what she always said, one day, they'll see. I just didn't know how soon. November 27th, 2025. Thanksgiving. I drove to Halcyon Park in 22 minutes. Jeans, gray sweater, 3-year-old boots. I brought a $40 bottle of wine I knew my mother would put on the counter and never open. I parked at the end of the driveway. I always parked at the end. The good spots were for Kimberly's white Lexus and Spencer's black BMW. I found my mother in the kitchen. "Oh, Alicia, you're here. Good. Can you help with the gravy? It's starting to lump." No hug. No how are you. Just gravy. For 2 hours, I was basically invisible. Refilling water pitchers. Clearing plates. Rearranging silverware because my mother said I'd done it wrong. At one point, Kimberly's 5-year-old, Noah, tugged my sleeve. "Aunt Alicia, why are you always in the kitchen?" Before I could answer, Kimberly laughed from across the room. "Because that's where she belongs, sweetie." Light tone. Like a joke. I caught Aunt Maureen's face for just a second, a flicker of discomfort. Then it was gone. At 6:47, we sat down to dinner. My seat was at the far end, near the kitchen door. My mother stood at the head of the table, wine glass raised, pearl earrings, hair freshly done. She'd mentioned it 3 times. "I want to thank God for this beautiful family. For Roland. For my grandchildren. For Spencer, who takes such good care of our Kimberly." Spencer raised his glass. "And especially for my daughter Kimberly. A doctor, a mother, a blessing." She paused. Then her eyes found me. "And of course, for Alicia." Another pause. Heavier this time. "I have 2 daughters. One is a doctor." She gestured toward Kimberly. "The other one?" Well, a light, tinkling laugh. "She cleans houses for a living. But at least she's good at it." 14 people laughed. I counted. Diane and Beverly. Uncle Gary. Spencer. Mr. Langdon. Dr. Claire Hughes. Kimberly laughed the loudest. My father looked at his plate. Mrs. Langdon pressed her lips together. But everyone else laughed. And my mother kept smiling, pleased with herself, pleased with her clever little joke. Something shifted inside me. I set down my water glass, put my napkin on the table, and stood up. The laughter stopped. "Alicia, is something wrong?" I met her eyes and held them. "Mom, I want to thank you. Thank you for making it very clear, in front of everyone here, exactly where I stand in this family. I hope one day you remember this moment. Because I know I will." I pushed in my chair, picked up my purse, and walked out the front door. I didn't slam it. I didn't need to. I was in a CVS parking lot 3 miles away when my phone rang. 7:34. Aunt Maureen. Her voice was shaking. She'd accidentally forwarded me an email back in August, meant it for Kimberly, clicked the wrong name. When I never responded, she told herself it didn't matter. "Check your spam folder." Subject line is what to do about Alicia. My hands went cold. The chain went back 18 months. 47 messages between my mother, Kimberly, and Maureen. From Carolyn, April 2024, "I don't want Alicia at Danielle's wedding making conversation with guests. What if someone asks what she does? I can't keep explaining away the embarrassment." From Kimberly, "Just tell her it's a small ceremony. Family only. She'll believe it." From Carolyn, Maureen, "Sometimes I wish I only had one daughter." Is that terrible to say? I stopped breathing. Read that line again. My own mother. In writing. I kept scrolling. From Kimberly, June 2024, "The wedding went perfectly." She actually believed the intimate gathering story. God, she's so easy to manage. From Carolyn, November 2024, "Thanksgiving is coming. People will talk if we don't invite her. But don't worry, I'll keep her busy in the kitchen." And then the last message. November 24th, 2025. 3 days before Thanksgiving. From Kimberly, "Don't worry, Mom. After tomorrow, she'll know her place. I have a toast prepared." A toast prepared. It wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't my mother being thoughtless. It was coordinated, planned, approved in writing. My own family had scheduled my humiliation. I sat in that parking lot for 45 minutes. Read every email twice. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just felt clear, like someone had finally turned on the lights in a room I'd been stumbling around in my whole life. All the self-doubt, all the years of wondering if I was imagining things, crystallized into one truth. They didn't just overlook me. They organized it. I created a folder, named it evidence, forwarded all 47 emails. Then I drove home. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Veronica Harcourt. Subject: The Phoenix Rising Award, congratulations. December 18th, the Grand Sonoran Resort. 600 guests. Local press. A speech. And 10 complimentary tickets. I looked at that number, 10, and thought about the 14 people who had laughed at me the night before. I called Aunt Sydney. Told her about the emails, read them word for word. When I finished, she asked, "What are you going to do?" I told her I'd thought about exposing them, forwarding those emails to every relative I had, watching it all unravel. And then I realized that's what they would do. I'm not them. I'm not going to destroy them. I'm just going to stop hiding and let them sit with what they've done. How? I'm inviting them to the ceremony. All of them. Spencer already got an invitation through a client. They think it's a networking event. They have no idea who's receiving the award. Long silence. Alicia, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Then I'll be front row, she said. With bells on. Over 3 weeks, I wrote 7 drafts of my speech. The first was angry, I named names, quoted emails. The second was sad. The third accusatory. The fourth self-pitying. 5 was too long. 6 too short. The 7th, I deleted everything and started over. Because I realized the best revenge isn't humiliation. It's becoming someone they can't ignore. I didn't need to quote a single email. I just needed to stand on that stage and tell my real story, and let them sit there realizing, slowly, publicly, that the daughter they dismissed was standing in a spotlight they could never reach. The final speech was 8 minutes. I didn't mention my family by name once. But I knew they'd hear themselves in every word. December 18th. Navy blue dress. $340. Aunt Sydney did my hair that morning. You look like a CEO, she said. I am a CEO, I said. She smiled. Yes, you are. At 6:15, my phone buzzed. Instagram. Kimberly had posted, her and Spencer in formal attire in the Grand Sonoran lobby. Networking with my husband at a business gala. Blessed life. They were there. They had no idea. I arrived through the speaker entrance. Veronica met me backstage. Through a gap in the curtain, I could see the ballroom filling up. And there, at table 14, I almost laughed at the number, sat my parents, Kimberly, and Spencer. Champagne glasses raised. Completely unaware. I've been ready for 3 years, I told Veronica. At 7:45, the MC stepped up. Ironwood Concierge was founded 3 years ago with 1 employee and a vision. Today, 38 employees. 3 of Arizona's most prestigious luxury resorts. Nearly $2 million in revenue this year. A murmur through the crowd. She faced people who told her she would never amount to anything. Tonight, we prove them wrong. Please welcome Alicia Marlowe. I heard my mother gasp before I even stepped into the light. The curtain opened. The spotlight hit my face. I walked across that stage with 600 people watching, including 4 people who had spent my entire life trying to make me feel like I didn't matter. I reached the podium. Looked out at the room. Veronica in the front row, beaming. Aunt Sydney beside her, already dabbing her eyes. And at table 14, 4 frozen figures. I took a breath. I want to tell you a story. A true story about a woman who, 4 years ago, had nothing. In 2021, I was fired from my job. $3,200 in debt. No references, no backup plan. 27 years old with no idea what I was going to do. My mother shifted in her seat. So I started cleaning houses. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. And somewhere along the way, I discovered I was good at it. Not just at cleaning, but at seeing what people needed. At being invisible in a way that made them feel visible. I looked directly at table 14. There were people who were supposed to love me, who told me I would never amount to anything. Kimberly's face went pale. People who called me an embarrassment. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. People who excluded me from family events because they were ashamed to be seen with me. My father closed his eyes. To those people, I want to say thank you. You gave me the greatest gift anyone could give. You gave me a reason to prove you wrong. The room was completely silent. This award isn't just for me. It's for everyone who's been dismissed, overlooked, made to feel invisible by the people who were supposed to see them most clearly. I see you. You are not your family's opinion of you. You are capable of so much more than they will ever understand. One breath. Thank you. The applause started with one person. Then 10. Then 100. Then the whole room on its feet, 600 people standing. For 47 seconds, I stood at that podium and let it wash over me. Everything I'd been quietly building toward for 4 years. At table 14, my family sat frozen. They did not stand. They couldn't. At 8:32, my mother appeared. Alone. Mascara on her cheeks. Hands shaking. Why didn't you tell me? I looked at her. The woman who had wished in writing that she only had one daughter. Would you have believed me, Mom? Would you have been proud? Or would you have found another reason to compare me to Kimberly? She didn't answer. That was answer enough. I didn't mean the things I said. The emails. You meant every word. Alicia, please. I'm not angry, Mom. She looked up, startled. I'm just done. I turned and walked away. She called after me, are we still family? Are we still? I stopped. Didn't turn around. We've always been family, Mom. You just never treated me like it. And I kept walking. 12 missed calls from my mother over the next 3 days. Voicemails that started with apologies and ended with deflection. I'm sorry, but this is so unfair to your sister. I deleted all of them. Kimberly sent one email, we need to talk. I archived it without opening it. My father called once. I answered. I'm sorry, he said. Quiet. Tired. I should have stood up for you. Years ago. You should have. But you didn't. I know. And I survived anyway. I still love you, Alicia. I know you do. But love isn't enough when you don't act on it. 6 minutes, 33 seconds. When it ended, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Just peace. I didn't cut them off completely. I'm not that person. But I stopped chasing. For 31 years I had been the one who kept showing up, kept hoping, kept believing that someday they'd finally see me. After the gala, I stopped. I let them come to me. And if they chose their pride over their daughter, that was its own answer. Christmas 2025, Aunt Sydney and I went to Cabo. A week at a beachfront resort. Too much food, too many margaritas, sunsets from the balcony every evening. My mother sent a Christmas present. I sent it back unopened. Some people will say that's petty, that I should forgive and move on. But forgiveness doesn't mean accepting continued mistreatment. I wasn't closing the door forever, I was just finally letting go of the handle. In January 2026, I got an email from Dr. Claire Hughes, Kimberly's colleague, one of the 14 who laughed at Thanksgiving. She said she was a coward that night. That watching me on that stage made her realize it's always our place to speak up when we see someone treated badly. She asked if I'd ever want to talk. I wrote back, coffee? She said yes. We met the following week and talked for 3 hours. Claire became one of my closest friends. Strange how the people who hurt you sometimes lead you straight to the people who heal you. Here's what I want you to take from this. This story isn't about revenge. Getting the last word doesn't fix anything. It doesn't heal anything. This story is about freedom. For 31 years, I waited for my family to see me. I waited for my mother to be proud. For my father to stand up for me once. For my sister to treat me like a person instead of a liability. I waited and waited and they didn't. But here's what I learned. I don't need their permission to exist. I don't need their approval to succeed. And I don't need them to tell me I'm worthy of love to know that I already am. The gala wasn't about humiliating anyone. It was about stepping into the light and letting the truth speak for itself. They saw me that night. For the first time in my life, they really saw me. But by that point, it didn't matter anymore. Because I had already learned to see myself. If you've ever been the other one, the one they overlook, the one they compare, the one they call an embarrassment, hear this, you don't have to prove anything to them. You don't have to wait for them to change. Just build. Quietly, on your own terms. And when you're ready, step into the light. They'll see you then. But by that point, you'll already see yourself. I am not the embarrassment. I never was. And I never will be again. Thanks for listening, and if this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about people who were written off, showed up anyway, and built something no one could take from them. The most powerful thing you can do to someone who underestimated you is simply become.